Dopamine is the #1 reason we do or don't do things. When you understand how dopamine works, you understand how to motivate yourself and others. Do you struggle to motivate yourself to tackle the complex tasks in life, like studying, exercising, or building a business? It can be tough to apply yourself to challenging activities when easier, less productive ones like scrolling social media, watching television, or playing video games seem much more appealing. But have you ever wondered why some people seem to have no problem with motivation, even for the most challenging tasks? The answer lies in a brain neurotransmitter called dopamine, often considered the pleasure molecule. But its role is more complex than that, as dopamine makes us desire things and motivates us to act. To understand just how powerful dopamine can be, let's look at some neuroscientists' experiments on rats. They implanted electrodes into the brains of rats. They stimulated the rats' reward system with dopamine every time they pulled a lever. The result was that the rats developed a craving so intense that they kept pulling the lever repeatedly for hours. The rats would even refuse to eat or sleep, completely consumed by the dopamine rush. But when the researchers blocked the release of dopamine in the rats' brains, the rats became lethargic. They lost all motivation to do anything, even simple things like drinking water. They didn't want to eat, mate, or do anything, and it was as if they had lost all the will to live. The only way to get the rats to eat was to place food directly in their mouths, as they had no motivation to move and get it themselves. Of course, these experiments are extreme cases. Still, they demonstrate the incredible power that dopamine can have in shaping our behavior. In fact, our brains develop priorities based mainly on how much dopamine they expect to receive from certain activities. If an activity releases too little dopamine, we won't have much motivation to do it. Still, if it releases a lot of dopamine, we'll be motivated to repeat it over and over again. Eating chocolate is an example many can relate to. Any activity where we anticipate a potential reward releases dopamine. If we know that the activity has no immediate rewards, our brains won't release dopamine. So, which behaviors release dopamine? Any activity where we anticipate a potential reward, like eating comfort food or playing a slot machine, releases dopamine. However, it's worth noting that nearly everything releases some dopamine, even drinking water when we're thirsty. But the highest dopamine release happens when we get a reward randomly, which is why gambling or checking social media can be so addictive. In today's digital age, we're flooding our brains with unnaturally high amounts of dopamine on a daily basis, often without even realizing it. Scrolling through social media websites, playing video games, or watching internet pornography are all examples of high dopamine behaviors. We constantly check our phones because we expect to see a text message or some other notification, and we know that we will eventually receive it. We're becoming like those rats pulling the lever, trying to get our dopamine fix. However, there is a problem with this approach. Our bodies have a biological system called homeostasis, which balances internal physical and chemical conditions. Whenever an imbalance occurs, our bodies adapt to it. For example, when it's cold outside, our body temperature falls, and we start shivering to generate heat and warm our bodies. Our body temperature rises when it's hot outside, and we start sweating to lose some of that heat. Essentially, our bodies want to maintain a temperature of around 98 degrees Fahrenheit, no matter what. But there is another way homeostasis manifests itself through tolerance. When we often flood our brains with dopamine, our bodies develop a tolerance to it, and we need to temporarily make ourselves feel better. We often engage in high dopamine behaviors like playing video games, browsing social media, and watching internet pornography. But over time, our brain becomes desensitized to the same level of dopamine release, and we need even higher levels of stimulation to feel the same level of pleasure. This leads to a vicious cycle of constantly seeking more and more stimulation, which can lead to addiction and negative consequences in our personal and professional lives. So how can we break this cycle and train our brains to enjoy doing hard things? The answer lies in what is known as a dopamine detox. The idea behind a dopamine detox is to take a break from all high dopamine activities to allow your brain to reset and regain its sensitivity to dopamine. This means cutting out activities like social media, video games, and pornography, as well as other high dopamine activities like junk food, alcohol, and drugs. During a dopamine detox, you may experience withdrawal symptoms such as restlessness, anxiety, and irritability. This is normal as your brain adjusts to the lower levels of stimulation, but over time, you will find that your motivation and focus improve, and you will enjoy doing hard things more than before. Here are some tips to help you get started with a dopamine detox. Set a clear goal. Before starting, it's essential to have a clear goal. What do you want to achieve by doing a dopamine detox? Maybe you want to improve your productivity, focus, or overall well-being. Plan your detox. Decide how long you want to do the detox for, and plan out what activities you will cut out during that time. Start with a shorter detox period, such as a week, and gradually increase the length of time as you become more comfortable. Find alternative activities you enjoy that will give you a sense of accomplishment. This could be reading, exercising, meditating, or learning a new skill. Stay accountable. Having a friend or family member join you in the detox or finding a support group online can be helpful. This will help you stay accountable and motivated. A dopamine detox can be a powerful tool for retraining your brain to enjoy doing hard things. By cutting out high dopamine activities and finding alternative sources of pleasure, you can improve your motivation, focus, and overall well-being. Give it a try and see how it can transform your life. That's the end of this video. Please do the follow and notification stuff because we love you and need you. See you next time.